Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Maxwell Construction, who has been our sponsor since the very beginning. For over 30 years, Maxwell has delivered the highest quality projects by holding to their core values of customer satisfaction, positive attitude, respect, and excellence. So if you have any kind of commercial construction need, give Maxwell Construction a call today at 812-537-2200. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, joined by my little check-in partner, Merle. Hi, honey.
Your check-in partner? What is a check-in partner?
I'm just teeing up the show for today.
Oh, because we're going to be talking about our tool called the check-in.
Yes.
Am I on target?
Very good. Very
right,
good. Yeah, we're really getting practical today. We want to... Last week's show was a parenting show. I think one of the more important parenting shows we've done. But this week, we're going to focus on our marriage, our relationships, where we're really trying to hone in on how do we get healthy? How do we connect and become closer together, more intimate as a married couple? So we're really going to get very practical today. So get a piece of paper because we're going to give you some practical things.
I think way too often, like so many things, in life, we make it way more difficult than it needs to be.
Complicated.
We make it complicated, and I think when you and I have worked with couples and we've just plugged in some of the very simple things that we're going to talk about today, the reason why we're doing this show is because these are the things that couples come back to us and say, wow, as long as we're doing this, this one little item, this one little thing, we seem to stay on track.
Yeah.
And it's nothing like you're going to say, why didn't I think of that? Okay, that's how simple these things are.
Yeah.
But it's also just like diet or anything else. It has to be a lifestyle. It can't be kind of the one and done thing. And so, and we'll talk about that as we go today. But these are actually some very simple things. But once you get them in place and they become part of a lifestyle that you do, you will strengthen your marriage and family beyond measure.
Yeah,
so,
I would love to say that we invented this stuff.
I think I did. Actually,
but the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. And
Yeah.
so we have found through our work at Rock Solid Families and especially our marriage course, Rock Solid Marriages, when we really got feedback from our couples that did these tools, they said these were the most impactful. These are the things that made the difference the most. And so we really want to share them with you today.
Yeah, we didn't invent the idea. Maybe the names that we're calling them. But so anyway, we're going to get into those. Let's go and we'll thank our sponsors. We've got a couple of announcements, and then let's get into this today. So we would like to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Maxwell Construction for being part of the Rock Solid Radio support group and what their efforts to just keep us going and contributing to our messaging has been really appreciative on our part. And so we want you to show some of your appreciation. If you're down doing business with those guys or you know them in any way, shape, or form, just thank them. Thank them for what they do to promote good, healthy community values.
Yeah, we mentioned Rock Solid Marriages, and we kind of wanted to roll out 3 different levels that you can purchase, that you can connect with when it comes to our 10-week, 7-step program that we developed. We did write this. We did develop this. It comes with videos that you watch weekly as a couple. It has a workbook that you do together. Well, you actually have your own workbook, but you work together on and unpack together. And then it has some coaching sessions, depending on what level that you choose.
Yeah, so we came together, we broke them down into 3 packages because we know that either money or time or just resources may not allow you to go all in, but hey, a little is better than nothing at all. So we're trying to make this as easy as possible so that you guys can get some work done on the marriage. So the gold package is $997, but wait, there's more. And that one, that's the 10-week program, okay? But it includes 5 one-on-one sessions with either Linda or I, okay? And
so it's basically every other week.
Yeah, typically we do that every other week. And those are 1-hour-long sessions. They can be either a Zoom session or they can be in person. If if you're relatively close to our area, we have people come in all the time. We actually prefer that because it just is so much more intimate in terms of understanding how the whole system's working. It includes our workbook, which we really believe is a great quality, a lot of time in that, and just the thoughtfulness of it. And so it includes the workbook. It will include 10 separate videos that will cover all of the different topics that will be discussed throughout those 10 weeks. All right. So each week there will be an actual standalone video
that we pre-recorded.
Yes, that we pre-recorded. Yep. Okay. And then with that particular session or package, the gold package, we give what we call just emergency check-ins. So these are this idea of, because this happens sometimes, that couples have struggled with a particular issue, and as they're going through something on the workbook, maybe it's not going well, and rather than it just blowing up on them and things going really bad, we say, hey, give us an emergency call. Yeah. In other words, it's kind of that emergency room check-in where you say, hey, Merle, Linda, man, we're really struggling this week on this thing. We're kind of bumping heads on this. Can we talk with you? Absolutely. Yep. Okay. And so it just gives us a lot more freedom to get more in depth in helping you.
Yep.
The second package is what we're calling the silver package, all right? And so it's $497, and it's the same program, okay? It's a 10-week program, but instead of having all of the one-on-ones, and that's where the big separation is between the two packages there, it will give a total of 2 30-minute sessions to be used whenever they need to be used, even at all, if that's what you want. But we would recommend that you use them because why not? It's part of the package. And they're 30-minute sessions. And those could be, we would think Zoom, as it's only 30 minutes, but if you're in the area, it could be in person as well. And then that will come in with the workbook. Along with the videos will also be included with that, the 10 videos. And again, we will still be open for any emergency type conversations that we need to have. And the last one, the bronze package, okay, and this is just because we know that money can be an issue, but this is $297, all right? And for basically under $300, you're going to get all of this, but one of the benefits is that many couples will use this actually almost as a Bible study to walk through, and they're disciplined enough, and they'll just go self-paced. And they'll use it as something that they can talk about, hey, on Wednesday nights, we're going to make that our night that we go through this and just use the whole workbook. You'll get the workbook. You'll also get all the videos, all right? But you won't get any of the one-on-ones, whether it's the 1 hour or the 30 minutes. You're not going to get any of that, okay? So there's 3 different levels for you to be able to get in, and basically we're trying to take excuses away from you to build a healthy, quality marriage.
You know, hon, you spoke about healthy, and I think as a woman, part of the struggle for women is that we are overwhelmed and that we are trying to do so many things. We're juggling so many balls in the air that we feel like we can't give any more, especially to our spouse. And so I'm just want to speaking to the women out there, the moms out there especially. So if you're a wife and a mother and you feel like my husband is really nagging me about something, I really don't have anything left to give, then I encourage you to become part of our Healthy Moms group. And we have a Facebook group, a private group that you can search Healthy Moms. You can message us at rocksolidfamilies.org and let me know, and I can put you into our ecosystem and our emails and things. And
that's a biology word, ecosystem.
You're a biology teacher. Yeah. But we just had one of the kind of the impromptu gatherings at our local community center, and the kids played in this indoor playground, and the women just got coffee and hung out, and it was just so nice. And so I'm just shouting out to all those women out there who really just feel like I've got so much and I don't know if I have anything left to give. And sometimes we really have to work on ourselves and getting healthy for ourselves so that we can really focus on those around us and give them our best.
Absolutely.
So women really take that on so much.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a small plug in there for Strong Dads,
there
too.
You go.
And so on Strong Dads, us men, we like to do things around activity. And so, every Saturday morning I have at 8 a.m., we do a 45-minute workout followed by a 45-minute opportunity to do some study, about just the condition and state of men as it relates to the Bible and our family. And so please come on out. That's at our office, which is at 7484 Christina Drive out in St. Leon. So
Indiana.
Out in Indiana. So anyway, we are about resources. And so what we just did through all of our announcements is to give you resources, guys, because at some point when things all go bad, we don't want you to be able to say, well, I didn't know what to do. Because that's not a good answer when things are falling apart. Okay?
Yeah. In our work with premarital couples for the last 30 years, we have tried to get ahead of some of the myths or assumptions or pretty unrealistic expectations that we've put on our marriage and our spouse that really should have never been there to begin with. And I know that one of our exercises with our premarital couples is kind of doing some myth busting and assumptions that we make. Really, when we go into a marriage thinking it's going to be all that, and it ends up not really being all that.
Yeah. So some of the assumptions, and they're not bad assumptions. They're just you have to understand them, because the assumption. I mean, one of the assumptions is that I'm going to marry you, and we will be the one marriage that makes it for life. You can't assume that. You have to work that.
Yeah.
You have to work that, because the assumption makes it almost a passive sort of understanding.
That's a good point, hon, because that is what walks in our door are people who got kind of complacent in their relationship. I had one just the other day who said, well, she knows I love her.
Yeah.
And she's over here going, I don't feel like you love me. I don't see it. And he's like, well,
I told you I loved you when I gave you the engagement ring.
30
Don't
years
you remember?
ago, you know? And so you just can't assume that it's always going to be like that, and that you're never going to have to put any more effort and work into it. So that's a really poor assumption.
Yeah. The assumption that we will get through difficult times because all the other couples do, and we'll just figure it out. That's a poor assumption as well. You have to develop the skills to get through conflict and difficult times. And if you don't develop a skill unless you realize you need it, right? And a lot of times couples don't know what they need when they're 20 years old and they're getting married, until finally they start to realize we don't talk very well.
Yeah.
We don't understand each other very well. And so you can't just make the assumption that, we'll get through the differences.
I just got permission just this week from a couple who experienced what I hope we never experience, and that is the death of a child. And it was a tragic car accident, and their young adult son was tragically killed, and it has rocked their world. And so no one prepares for that. No one thinks like, I got to make sure we're strong enough to deal with a sudden death, and so that did. And so they've given us permission to share their story, and we'll be doing that in the weeks to come. But I can't imagine. And so there's going to be storms. So we can't promise you storm-free marriage and storm-free life. But as we say all the time, we can help you storm-proof your relationship for that next thing that may hit.
Another assumption, hun, that I see frequently is when we're talking to premarital couples, they're dreaming together. They're getting ready to buy their first house. They're talking about like the job situation and how that works for the two of them, right? They're even talking about other activities and vacations. And they make the assumption that those dreams will just always be that way together. And the reality of it is that's one of the barometers that you and I use when couples stop dreaming together. And we have to understand, well, why would you stop dreaming together? Well, we're not on the same page. We're not honoring each other well. And the next thing you know, he dreams his future, she dreams her future, and the two don't cross. Okay. And so that's one of those things too. Like, well, I thought we would always do this stuff together. Well, not if you don't work on it.
And then we bring in kids in this, as I mentioned before, with Healthy Moms, and we they're the squeaky wheels, right? They cry, they need fed, they get up in the middle of the night, they want to sleep with you. And so children really throw a wrench in some relationships. And as moms, I'm just going to admit, we are guilty of kind of elevating our children into an authority and a priority over our spouse. And so our spouse starts to feel like they somewhere rank below the dog. And it makes it, sometimes the dog, I've had couples say, like, even the dog ranks above me. So it's really bad. Yeah.
Another assumption about how we hurt each other. I think most of the time, not always, but most of the time, I don't believe that couples have the intention to hurt each other, but they frequently hurt each other by just how they respond back and interact or ignore or dismiss. And so you can be hurting each other just a little bit at a time, which is just enough to build up a callus on the other person's part, and they callus so that they can get toughened up to it. That doesn't mean, though, that they are staying soft in their heart towards you, and eventually they become that hardened heart. And so a lot of times we're hurting each other, and that wasn't our intention, but we didn't know how to not hurt.
And then, as you said, it's kind of the slow wearing away, but it could be a fracture that happens with some kind of betrayal, whether it be infidelity, whether it be knowing of addiction, whether, big fat lie about maybe your money situation. I've seen that fracture just come suddenly, and the trust is broken, and it takes a lot longer to rebuild it than how fast it got destroyed.
We've done show after show on trust, and that is definitely the big one. And then I think one of the other big assumptions that we run into is that we will love on our wedding day the same way 30, 40 years later. And I think what happens there is we really have an altered understanding of what love is when we're 20 years old versus when we're 50 years old. Because the words, see, I got y'all choked up on that, didn't I? Words like lust and love get interchanged, and so it gets a little bit weird. And so the love does look different as time goes on, but it still can be as good as ever and as healthy as ever if you know how to go about that.
Sorry, it's my tea. I went on the wrong pipe.
Well, I'll carry the next thing.
No, I do think that we've said this before. Love is a decision. You won't always feel it, okay? And it does look differently over decades, but it's still a decision to make day after day after day. Like, I choose to love you. I've decided to love you. And, the same thing with joy. Even on days when you don't feel like it, sometimes you have to choose joy. It's a decision that you're not going to look at things as all the things that are wrong, but you're going to choose the joy and the love that you can choose to focus on. Yeah.
So when you boil this all down, you start to see, this marriage thing's a whole lot harder than we thought. And we know, give or take a couple percentages, at least half the marriages end in divorce. And I think if you dig a little deeper, you actually find out that even those that don't end in divorce, I read a number that even 49% or so of those who don't divorce still sought out at some point in time in the marriage. Okay. At some point in time, they sought out help, whether it was from a counselor, a coach, a pastor, that they felt like things were on a rocky path and they sought out some help.
And that number is in the 60s and the 70s on second marriages and third marriages.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Like, there's lots of reasons for marriage to be difficult, but there's also more reasons for why marriage should be important and it should work. Okay. And so I think at our heart, we know that. Like, I don't have to fall to all this garbage about, marriage is just a paper contract. It's not that important. No, we know in our heart that it's the right thing to do. And if you're not sure about that, just see what happens to a family when there is a divorce. You don't have to tell the kids that things are in a bad way. We know in our heart that we want this marriage to work, but why isn't it? And so, let's get into some of our marriage-saving tools. And we've done an entire toolbox show, remember that? But this was something that we said, let's just give our folks out there listening, let's just give them a few things today that if they just do these, if you just do these, you're going to be moving in the right path.
So we're going to give you 3 marriage-saving tools that we believe can make all the difference in your relationship. And they can't be done just one time.
No, they're lifestyle things.
Yes, they're lifestyle things. And we're just going to put disclaimer, the earlier you start this in your relationship, the better. So that's why on all our premarital couples, these are things that we hound and push day after day, that we encourage them to do now, get it into the habit, so that 20, 30 years ago, they've storm-proofed their relationship, and no matter what comes, they're able to withstand and not only just survive, but thrive in the relationship.
Let's do number one.
Okay.
So number one is the whole idea. Get your paper, get your pen. I want you to write this out. Couples do not know how to check in with each other well. And so the first thing that we do is we call it a check-in, okay?
A daily check-in.
A daily check-in. But here's the key with the check-in. Many couples come home every day and they go, "Hey, hon, how are you? Well, how was your day?"
That's fine.
And they're walking around the house, they're kind of doing their thing, and they're kind of halfway listening to each other, and it's more of a mannerly greeting at best. Okay, at best. What we're talking about is we call this a 10 to 15 minute check-in, where you actually, you get everything else out of the way. Maybe it's after dinner, the dishes are finished, the kids are out of the way, and you're going to start to have some conversation. And I always like to say, because I've said this many times, guys don't really know where to go with all this, because a lot of times our guys just aren't the talkers. And so the idea is you just have to talk about what you did that day. But here's the key. That's the easy subject,
surface part.
Right? But the key is learning then how to read how your partner's doing. That's the purpose of the check-in. And so that's a part of that is what we call the heart check.
Yep.
Like, I have to know how you're doing. I could simply come out and say, "How are you doing today?" But I guarantee you, no matter who you ask, "How you doing today?"
Fine.
You're going to get the superficial answer.
Okay.
So it takes about 6, 7, 8 minutes of discussion for people to kind of break down and for them to get rid of the surface stuff and know that you're actually listening. And then you start, I always say, from the belly to the head, and right in the center is the heart. I need to watch their shoulders, their facial expression, their energy level. And from that, I'm assessing not the words so much, but I'm assessing how are you doing? Okay?
Yeah.
And so it's at the end of the day in a marriage, it's not what we know, it's how we take care of each other.
Yeah.
And so trying to impress each other by what you did every day and all those things, that's not important to your spouse as much as, "Hey, how you doing? Are you doing okay?"
Yeah, and when you ask that, and then I say fine, or I say like, okay, and then you just like, "Hey, what's for dinner?" and you keep just blowing through that, then I feel dismissed. I feel like you didn't even notice. You didn't even slow down enough to notice that I had a sigh in my voice, or I didn't even have a chance to look you in the eyes. And so men and women, it's really important that you do this daily heart check, not what they're doing, but how they're doing. If you don't read into that, if you don't read between the lines and find out, is my partner okay today? You've missed an opportunity to love them well.
Yeah. And can I just say that most of the times it's going to be pretty boring. All right. Like most of the time.
Yeah. You don't have to make it up just to be dramatic.
In normal life, we don't have to have drama all the time. Okay. So if 7 days a week we sat at the table and it was this big, messy ordeal of emotions and crying.
Exhausting.
I can tell you, like, I don't know any guy who's going to stick around for that. He's going to be like, this is wearing me out right here. I'm out. But, most of the time it is going to be relatively like, my day was good. I'm good. And it's all we're asking to do is to say, so it seems like you had a pretty good day. And really, I'm saying that so that I am just getting a check to make sure I am reading my spouse well.
Right.
Okay. And if I said that, hon, if I said, so it seems like you've had a pretty good day, and I was wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe you put up a good little front there. If I was wrong, what would you do?
I probably wouldn't start crying. I would probably be like, It wasn't so good. Or maybe you would ask me twice. Sometimes the second question, like, are you sure it was okay? Then that's when the tears start to flow.
Yeah, and the more you practice it, the easier it gets because you know it's not about defending yourself. It's not about like, I have to hide this from them. Like, you know that they handled you well during that whole process, and it's not going to be a threat of any sort. And so it gets a little bit easier to say, to be honest, like, this is how my day went today. And so if I could just say this, as you walk through, you're listening to what they're saying. You're not fixing their problem.
That's huge, yeah.
Okay? Instead, you're allowing them just to work through it, right? And you are just a resource back there if they need you.
Yeah.
And one way that you can just say that is when you've heard it and you see that they've struggled a bit that day, you can just say, hey, what can I do for you today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
How can I help?
Not, hey, you know what? Here's what you ought to do. Here's what you ought to do. Shut up.
Yeah.
Don't
That's
do
like
that.
fingernails on a blackboard because guys are fixers usually and they want a solution. They're solution focused where women kind of like want to circle. But you mentioned something that's really important. If every night is a drama fest, the guys aren't going to even open that can of worms because it's like, holy cow, I don't got enough energy for the evening or I don't got enough hours of the day. And so ladies, please let go slow. Don't dump on them every night like you're backing up a dump truck because it gets overwhelming. Guys don't want to have that much drama and that much emotion every night. I'm not saying you can't share what's going on, but try to do it in a way that's manageable, that's not overwhelming. And if you are in an overwhelmed state, then just simply say, I'm overwhelmed. Yep. You don't have to vomit on your husband and open up that Pandora's box where they literally are running to the bathroom just to escape. Like, just say, it was a horrible day and I am overwhelmed. And then that's when the question is, well, how can I help? And that might be something as simple as going up and taking the kids to get a bath and letting you sit down, or doing the dishes for you and let you go take a nap, or whatever it is. It really is about communicating better.
Here's the takeaway. At the end of each day, you know that you've got each other's back. At the end of each day, you know you've got each other's back, that you can trust each other, you can count on each other. And you know what? Today, I may need to help you, but there's a very good chance that tomorrow you're going to have to help me. And so to know that we've got each other's back allows us to just by our lifestyle of how we're doing this, allows us to build trust that, hey, if the wind blows bad one day, it's all right. We're going to get through this. Okay. So daily check-ins and getting a feel for where the heart is, like how they're doing more than what they're doing, is our takeaway.
So before we move on to number 2, I want to put some other disclaimer in there too. And that is, I've had couples who said, we can't do this. We try to sit down and we'll bite each other's head off. And so if it's that volatile and you are that sharp tongue and the judgment is so raw right now, then please get some outside help. Okay? Because if you're not able to extend grace to one another and to really listen to each other's heart, then there's a barrier there. Maybe there is mistrust, right? Somebody's betrayed, somebody's lied to you. Maybe, you don't feel heard. So that's where people come into our office all the time, right? But we want to get you to that place of daily maintenance, that daily heart check that really does make a difference, especially for women. They love to feel heard, and the guys love to feel like, okay, this is a house of peace.
Yeah, great point. Okay, so the second thing, all right? So these are the quick takeaways, all right? So the second thing, I'm going to take credit for this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to take credit because...
You think you created it?
I learned one thing from my elementary years, over all those years being in school. When you work with couples or people in general long enough, you start to realize that most people come in with very good intentions with most things in their life. They want life to go well. But when you stir emotion into the mix of a situation, emotion is kind of that unknown variable that can really sideline things. And so many couples either don't handle emotions well, or they don't even understand when emotions are taking over their mind and their body. Okay. And so what we're talking about right now are the fire alarms and the fire drills. And so the one thing you learn in a school is that
Especially in elementary
you
school.
have 600 little kiddos in your building. And if you really want somebody to get hurt, just pull the fire alarm and don't tell them what it's about. Okay. Kids go crazy, especially your younger ones who've never heard that kind of alarm. They cry, they panic, they get scared, some laugh and act silly. You know, that would be our son. And so these are these kind of things that happen because an alarm has gone off. So they recognize the alarm, but they're not quite sure what to attach it to. Okay. And so the emotions get stirred up. Now, if you just pulled the alarm and you yelled, fire, with no plan behind it, now you've just escalated the chance and opportunity for even greater damage. And so this is what we talk about when we're dealing with couples, that one, they don't understand their fire alarms. That's the signal that tells you something's not right. And two, the fire drill is a practice plan to get you out of trouble. Okay? And so one thing that we want to be able to learn to do with the fire alarm, all of us have our own alarm systems. Okay? Linda knows that when I get mad, I don't make good eye contact and I grit my teeth.
You pucker your,
I bite my cheeks. And someday I'm going to have to get stitches on the inside of my cheeks.
Bite your cheeks.
I bite my cheeks, okay? And what do you do when you're mad at me? I mean, that's probably not happened much, but if it ever has.
Well, I cry.
Boom.
I bring tears. I'm getting better.
You
I'm
cry,
really getting
or
better.
you move quickly and you set things down quickly. Like we can tell by how you're walking and how keys go to the table or the counter. And so, guys, that's okay. Like these are the alarms, though. And the worst thing is when everybody else sees your alarm and you don't even recognize it. But the alarm is that something is causing confusion in you. Confusion leads to tension within you, and that is called anxiety. Okay, and it's going to come out somehow. Either you're going to shut down, might be your protocol, or you're going to act
Blow
out.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've got to recognize my alarms as to when I'm starting to get triggered. Okay. But with that, as soon as I learn that and go, yeah, you know what, I'm starting to chew my cheeks here. I'm starting to get mad. Right away, I have to immediately attach that to a plan. And so these are called the fire drills, okay? And the fire drills, like in the elementary school, we would, in the very first day of the school year, we would say, okay, kids, this is what the alarm sounds like. And we would, that annoying sound, which is no different than my heart beating faster or me gritting my teeth. Okay, that alarm sound is something that's grabbing my attention. And that is, I want every kid in the building to hear that and start to recognize, oh, something's not right, okay? And as soon as we teach our kids what that sound is, then we turn that sound off and we tell our teachers, okay, now teachers, I want you all to go over the plan for what your kids should do if they're in your room when that alarm goes off. And so at that time, the teachers say, okay, if you're in my room, here's what we do. Here's the evacuation plan. And they talk about doors to go out and exits and all those kinds of things, and talks about even how you go about it. We line up single file. We keep our hands to ourselves. We don't talk, these kinds of things. And what was so cool when you see something like that, even in the elementary, the very first drills that we would do at the beginning of the year would take about 2 to 2.5 minutes to get our kids out, and it was usually havoc and kids getting trampled and everything else. Usually by, late September, October.
Kids really didn't get trampled, just FYI.
Pushed around a little bit. Pushed around.
Great.
And,
we're putting that on there.
And so, but usually, after a few practices, we're getting 600 kids out of the building in under a minute.
Wow.
No talking, nobody getting pushed. The kid who's at the end of the line is not panicking because he's seeing that he's not going to get out as fast as the kid at the front of the line. In other words, everything's under control, and at the end of the day, everybody is safe. So here's the deal. When you and your spouse are starting to recognize that your alarm is going off, you're getting irritated, you're getting mad at your partner, okay? You have to quickly go, okay, I need to get to my plan. And so you and I use some simple words. Hey, I need to take a break. I need a timeout. Is all that's doing is allowing us to bring the emotions down into calm.
Yep, put the fire out.
And then at that point, we've practiced certain drills. And so for Linda and I, again, it's you do your thing, okay? It's your building. You're in your particular classroom. You do what works for you. But the deal is you have to do.
Yeah.
You have to do, otherwise people are going to get burned up, okay?
Yeah.
And so, for Linda and I, it might be different in the sense that, we'll take an hour or so and just go chill out and go our own way.
You'll go for a run or a bike ride.
Yeah, and you'll clean,
I'll clean or take a nap.
All right?
Some laundry.
And so then we come back and we come back calmly. We come back calmly and we say, the very first thing we say when we come back is, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yep.
And I say I'm sorry because that's like all the kids in a line when one kid says, you can go in front of me versus I have to be in front of you. That's the difference. My sorry is basically saying to Linda that she's more important right now than my feelings, that I'm going to honor her.
Or my point that I was trying to make.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, good people who have both practiced these drills. Linda knows the same drill that I do. And so she knows that she doesn't have to one-up me. You should be sorry. No. Instead, you reciprocate with what?
Yeah, I'm sorry too.
I'm sorry too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right away, we turn the alarms down and the fire is starting to settle. And now we can actually start to settle whatever the problem was. Okay.
Yeah. And so I love this analogy because it also reminds us that if we just brush that fire under the rug and then just go about our days and just kind of ignore that blow up or that ugly that we had and don't put it out, put the fire out, and we really kind of resolve it, then it just erupts back up. Sometimes even worse.
Yeah, it'll smolder.
Yeah. And so that's what we're asking you to do is go back to the daily heart check, like, okay, what is it that hurt you? What went off the rails last night? What did I do that bothered you? Because I could tell you're upset and we went to bed mad. And so that's going back to number one after you've learned number two.
Yeah. And if you do this, like let's say you're listening to us today and you go, okay, you know what, we don't do well with conflict. Let's start to practice this. Well, this is like the very first time we do the drill with the kids at school.
It's awkward.
The very first time it's awkward. You're not going to do well. You're not going to be the greatest at it. But this is the practice. And so I'm not asking you to get into a fight every night to practice it. What I'm doing is have some conversation about it.
Yeah.
In your head, I want you to know what the two of you will do before you get to this toxic, nasty place where you start stepping on each other. So you practice the drill so that when all of a sudden that day does come, that time when you're having a disagreement, that one of you or both of you can say, I think we need to take a little time out and practice a fire drill.
So John Gottman, we've done John Gottman stuff before, but he is a researcher that's studied marriages for 40 years, and he would call this the soft startup. And so if you have a conflict or a fire erupt and you're coming back to it to resolve it, he would say the soft startup is the apology or a compliment like, hey, you work your butt off. And so when you came in and kind of, you caught me off guard or, I got short with you. I'm sorry. You worked so hard and then you shouldn't have to come home to that. So compliment or a thank you, like thank you for working for our family or thank you for folding the laundry. I should have been more of a help, that kind of stuff. It's a soft startup to really resolve it and to put that fire out.
Yeah. The last thing.
Yes.
The last
Number
thing.
3.
Well, I'm going to let you cover the last thing because you're actually bigger at promoting this than I am, and I talked way too much on the last 2.
Well, it is something that we have learned over the decades of being married. We've been married for 35 years, and so we learned this several decades ago that praying together before bed or sometime during the day is so important in developing and strengthening your relationship. And if you're not a Christ follower, I get it. Sometimes we're really bad examples of how to live a life for Christ, but this is not about religion, okay? I'm not saying to recite so many prayers. I'm saying for you and your partner to intimately connect and invite God into your relationship. That's what I'm talking about. And so you and I have done this probably for the last 25, 30 years, where we come into bed, we do it in the evening, we come into bed, we try to go to bed at the same time, we grab a hand, we're in the dark, you lead us as the spiritual leader in our home, you pray out loud, and some people are like, I don't pray out loud. Well, this is your best friend. This is supposed to be your intimate one flesh partner, and you're not feeling comfortable enough to even pray for them or with them. And so you pray for me, you pray for our kids and our grandkids and our daughter-in-laws, and you just literally invite God in. Sometimes you'll even say, God, please forgive me for the way I talked to Linda today or whatever. And so you're just so vulnerable. And sometimes you'll pray for things that I didn't even know were on your heart that day.
Right.
Or something that you may have had earlier in the day that we haven't even talked about. And so that prayer time, there is statistics that tells us that couples who pray together on a regular basis, less than 1% divorce. I think it's 0.01% divorce. And so I don't have a statistic or a tool that rivals that, okay? And so this is probably the greatest tool in our toolbox, and this is why at Rock Solid Families, we do faith-based coaching, not licensed therapy, where we would have to check it at the door and only invite God in if you wanted him in. We know that God is the difference maker in a relationship.
Yeah, it's the humbling of the heart, right?
Yes.
But if you're going to go before God, you have to know that God's on the throne and you aren't. And that's what happens in marriage too. That if you're going to go into marriage, you have to know that your spouse is ahead of you in terms of how you're going to care for them. Okay, you're gonna take care of their need just before your own. So I think it's just really important because it teaches. Our culture is so anti-submission. It has gotten such a terrible black label on it, like it's some terrible evil thing. And the way of faith is one of submission.
Yeah.
But you have to know, I'm only going to submit to something that's truly great. Right. And so this is so important.
Mutual submission. Ephesians 5 talks about that we submit to one another out of reverence for Christ, the Bible says. And so we do this. We voluntarily do it. I'm not being told to. I'm not his slave. We decide that we want to put God at the throne and then our spouse, okay? And so we literally, and people will say, well, where am I on that? When we are aligned with God, we're up here with God because we've died to self, okay? And we've allowed him to kind of lead us and guide us. And there's no better way to align your life than in that order.
Yeah, and it's easy when both people do it.
Yes.
Like it's very comfortable to do it. You do it back and forth and you feel the reciprocation of it.
Yeah.
It is difficult when one is constantly doing it and the other one, you basically have the givers and the takers. And if one's constantly taking, it does become exhausting. And that's something that you need to learn to talk about or even get help with because, it does break you down.
And that's where the daily heart check comes in, right? If you feel kind of used that day or day after day, then when your husband says, how are you? And you're like, I'm struggling. I feel like I'm doing so much and I just don't feel any reciprocation, right? And so that's kind of where that daily heart check. So number one, remember, just to review, our 3 marriage-saving tools. Number 1 is the daily heart check, okay? Number 2 is the daily fire drills. Or
practice fire
drills. Yeah. And the third is prayer that you and your spouse do together intimately, daily, regularly, where you open up your heart and really invite God into your relationship.
Yeah. Guys, it doesn't have to be complicated. No. Okay. It doesn't have to be read out of a book. It doesn't have to be, I have to sound right. No, you have to accept each other where they are and how they communicate. But the idea that you just open the door to those things and you will get better and better at them. So our challenge is to start to implement. Start slow. Don't expect a whole lot right now. Okay, be able to laugh at yourself. Especially when you know that some of the things you bicker or argue about are maybe silly. Be able to call out your own shortcomings. Okay, on both sides. Man, that is just one of those things that shows a level of submission that you know that you're not all that. Okay, so some humor goes a long way, and just start to encourage each other to say, hey, let's talk tonight. Let's talk tonight.
Yeah. So as we close, we want to thank thank again our sponsors, Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Maxwell Construction, for their support of Rock Solid Radio, Rock Solid Families, what we do. If there's anything that we can do for you, if you're interested in a Rock Solid Marriage, one of the programs that we spoke of, or coaching individually, just give us a call at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-7625. Or you can reach us on our website at rocksolidfamilies.org.
Thanks again for listening to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day. Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They offer a wide selection of high-quality plants, landscaping materials, and home decor. They do amazing high-quality work and can help you transform your indoor and outdoor living spaces into something beautiful. So stop by Casey's Outdoor Solutions today and let them know you appreciate their support for Rock Solid Radio. Visit Casey's today at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana.